Hey guys, good morning. We're going to go ahead and get into our two-step inequality. So we're combining the one-step addition, subtraction with the one-step multiplication and division, okay? So remember, as always, we're going to be doing the inverse operation, okay? So go ahead and press pause, copy your notes down. Make sure you do leave enough space here to work everything out, okay? I left 2, 4, 5 spaces. That should be plenty, okay? And then come back and we'll go over it. All right, let me move my mouse. Okay, so we're going to be solving two-step inequality. So that means you're going to have more than one operation. You will have an addition, subtraction, and then you'll have a multiplication or division. Okay, so it's combining the two. And we're going to undo them like Pim does doing backwards. So just like we did in equations, we're going to be getting rid of the addition, subtraction first, and then we'll get rid of the multiplication, division. Okay. So steps that we have in your notebook to follow. Step 1, we're always going to be isolating the variable. That's going to show us which side of the inequality we will be working on to get rid of the numbers, okay? Step 2, we're going to do the inverse operation of the addition subtraction first, okay? So if we're adding, we'll be subtracting, subtracting, we'll be adding. There we go. You can see me better. Okay? And then after we do that, we'll do the inverse operation of multiplication division. So multiply will divide, divide will multiply. And don't forget, we have that warning sign, okay? If you multiply or divide by a negative, my symbol flips directions, okay? So remember that, all right? So let's get into the examples because you learn by seeing. So let's go ahead and see some of these examples I have here. So this is 3x plus 9 is less than 18. So 3 times some number plus 9 will give me less than 18. So follow the steps. Step 1, isolate the variable. That shows you that on this side of the inequality, I got to get rid of those two numbers. I have to get rid of those two numbers, the 9 and the 3, okay? So looking at step 2, it says to get rid of the addition subtraction first. So I see adding 9. It's pretty much get rid of the number that is by himself on the variable side. See how the 9 is by himself and the 3 is attached to the x, okay? So we're going to do the opposite of adding 9, which is subtracting 9 from both sides, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 9 from both sides. This leaves me with 3x. Remember, we didn't do anything with the 3x yet, so he comes down together. 9 minus 9, cancel. And then 18 minus 9 leaves me with 9. Okay? And go ahead and bring the symbol down. So 3x is less than 9 so far. Now this looks like yesterday's problem. Remember how we did yesterday's problem? Same process. Isolate the variable. So isolate that x. That shows you that now the 3 we have to get rid of the 3. So to get rid of him, we do the opposite, the inverse, okay? So instead of multiplying by 3, what's the opposite of multiplying by 3? Dividing by 3, okay? So we're dividing by 3, cancel, cancel. Take a look here. I divided by a positive 3, so therefore my symbol stays the same. And then 9 divided by 3 is 3. Okay, so just to remind you again, step 1, we're going to be doing the adding. We're going to be either add or subtract here. And then step 2 will be multiply, divide. Oop, I may just make a line right there so I don't get into that problem. Okay, so step 1 is adding, subtracting. Step 2 is multiplication, division. Okay, and then don't forget the warning. If I divided by a negative, then my symbol would flip. But in this case, I divided by a positive, therefore my symbol stays the same. So your final answer is x is less than 3. Okay, and when you graph it, your circle will be open circle, because 3 is not part of my answer. It has to be less than 3. Okay, good. Let's go to the next one, okay? I have 5 plus 2c is less than a -9, okay? Now, some students have trouble with this because they have the number first and then the variable comes later. So I'm going to show you how to solve this, okay? So isolate the variable as always. Step 2, we're going to do the opposite operation. So I'm going to pretend this is gone, and that's a 5, okay? That's a 5, a positive 5. So how can I get rid of a positive 5? How can I cancel out a positive 5? By putting a -5. Okay? -5 to both sides. Okay? So, because this is what we want. We want a 0. So 5 minus 5, there's my 0. That's why I do cancel, because I don't have to put a 0. That'll might get me confused later on, okay? And this is a plus, okay? So that means that's going to stay a positive. I don't have to do any keep, change, flip or anything here. So this stays a positive 2c less than subtracting negatives. Okay, let's take a look. I have -9 minus 5. If you remember KCF, we have to add the inverse. So the -9 stays the same. My subtraction sign goes to a positive plus sign, and my positive 5 is now a -5. Okay, that is all back in the rules of subtracting positives and negatives. So go back and check, okay? Now let's do the math. A -9 plus a -5, my signs are the same now, so I need to add them together. So 9 and 5 is 14. And they're both the same sign, so the bigger number is 9, so his negative is going to come into my answer. Okay, because we keep the sign of the bigger number with the absolute value. So far I have 2c is less than -14. Okay, a lot of rules here, especially on those negatives, so you need to have them hopefully memorized by next year, okay? Let's keep on going, because the whole point is to get the variable alone. Right now, he still has some buddies there, okay? So let's get rid of that 2. You remember, this is multiplication. So the opposite of multiplying by a positive 2, divide by a positive 2 to both sides. Okay? So here I have cancel, because that equals 1. So c comes down. I divided by a positive number here. Therefore, I do not have to flip the sign. The sign stays the same. Okay, so my sign comes down to the answer. And then a -14 divided by a positive 2. Well, my signs are different, so it's going to be negative. And then 14 divided by 2 is 7, just like that. Okay? Any questions there? Well, if you have questions, get onto Google Meet, send me a private comment, and I can help you there. I'm just so used to talking to kids. I'm sorry. All right. Let's move on. I'm going to go ahead and highlight here. That way there's no confusion where my stuff is at. There. Okay. Question 2 or 3. Oh, it's almost Friday, guys. All right. M divided by -3 plus 5 is greater than or equal to 2. Okay. Same process. And I see 2 operations. I see division and addition, so we're doing the opposite. So what's the opposite of division? Multiplication. The opposite of addition? Subtraction, okay? And we're going to go in the reverse order of the order of operations. So isolate your variable, and we get rid of the addition first, okay? To get rid of it, we do what it says up here, inverse operation of addition, subtraction. So since I see addition, the opposite would be subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. Okay, and that gives me cancel. M divided by -3 stays there. Symbol comes down because it doesn't flip on that first step. It does not flip. Here I have 2 minus 5. I cannot take 5 from 2. So I need to do the additive inverse. I need to add the opposite. So subtraction changes to addition. Because I did that, the 5 now becomes a negative 5. Okay? Now going back to your SADS rules, the adding of positives and negatives, I have a positive 2 and a negative 5. My signs are different, so I'm going to subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. So if I subtract 5 minus 2, I get a 3, and a 2 or a 5. 5 is bigger, so that means I have more negatives than positives. So his sign comes into my answer. Okay? All right. Let's go again. Isolate the variable. Okay? This time I'm dividing by a negative 3. And so the opposite of dividing would be to multiply. Okay? So I'm going to multiply by a negative 3 to both sides. Just like that. Okay? And so now I'm going to have cancel, M. Now this is the step. Step 2 is where you have to take a look. Am I multiplying or dividing by a negative? And in this scenario, we are multiplying by a negative. So therefore my sign switches directions. So it's not greater than or less than anymore. It is now less than or equal to. Okay? And then 3 times 3 is 9. My signs are the same. And if you're multiplying and they're both negative, your answer stays positive, okay? So make sure you remember that rule. So the answer here is M is less than or equal to a positive 9 because same signs, positive answer, okay? A lot of those integer rules, guys, those positive, negative rules, you have to make sure you know them, okay? You need to make sure you know those. All right. Process that real quick, okay? If you ever need to process, just press pause and take a deep breath, look over the problems, and be like, okay, I think I get it now. All right. So let's go on to number 4. I'm going to isolate the variable. Oh, this is n divided by 4 minus 9 is greater than 5, okay? So I isolated the variable. That shows me I have to get rid of the dividing 4 and the minus 9. So if I follow my rule, my steps, it said step 2, inverse operation of addition, subtraction. So here I see subtraction. So the inverse of subtraction, addition, good. Okay. And we are going to go ahead and cancel. N over 4 comes down because we did nothing with it. Symbol stays the same. I don't have to worry about that in the adding subtracting step. 5 plus 9, 5 plus 9 is 14. And we're down to yesterday's problem. Good. Next step is to isolate again. That shows you the 4 has to be eliminated. So we do the opposite. So instead of dividing by a positive 4, I'm going to multiply by a positive 4 to both sides. So that's going to be cancel. Take a look. I multiplied by a positive 4, so therefore my symbol stays the same. So it's greater than comes down. Okay. Now we do 14 times 4. Let's see, 4 times 4 is 16, carry your 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So n is greater than 56, okay? And everything was positive, so my answer stays positive. Okay? Getting the hang of it, hopefully? Well, now I'm going to give you fractions. Okay? The steps are the same. We just have more rules to remember, okay? Before up here, we need to remember the positive negatives. Now you have to remember positive negatives and fraction rules of multiplication and fraction rules of division, okay? So I am still going to isolate the variable. Steps are the same. And now we're going to do the inverse operation of addition or subtraction. What do you see? I see subtraction as well. So the opposite or inverse of subtraction is addition to both sides to keep it balanced. Okay. Cancel, cancel. Bring down that 1/2 x, and then -4 plus 2. That's where you have to think of, are my signs the same or different? Remember the adding rules? Okay. Here, my signs are different because I have a -4 and a +2. So different, subtract. So I'm going to subtract the 2. And then I have 4 negatives versus 2 positives. The 4 is bigger, so his sign is going to be left over, so he comes into the answer. So 1/2 x greater than -2. Okay. Now, we have our lovely fraction. Okay. Remember, this means 1/2 times x is greater than -2. So I'm still isolating that variable, but instead of multiplying by 1/2, I am going to divide by 1/2. But I'm going to show you a trick here. Because if you remember, when we divide by fractions, what do we do? What do we end up doing? We change division to multiplication, and we do the reciprocal of the second fraction. That's what we're doing. So I'm going to show you a shortcut. Instead of having to write out divided by 1/2, because I know divided by 1/2 is the same thing as multiplying by 2/1. Okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and multiply by the reciprocal of 1/2, because that's what division of fractions is. Remember, it's multiplying by the reciprocal. Okay? So these are going to cancel, because if you look, 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 1 is 2, 2/2 gives you the 1. So x comes down. And did I multiply by a positive or negative? Positive, so my symbol stays the same. And over here, I have -2 times 2/1. So if you need to see what that looks like, it looks like this, -2 times 2/1. So make them both fractions. And now multiply straight across. So 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. Now, I have a negative times a positive. So it's going to be a negative. Now, this is not in simplest form. This is improper. So 4/1 as a proper fraction or whole number, well, 4 divided by 1 is just 4. And of course, bring your negative into your answer. So that's a shortcut you can do with the fractions, okay? Because you remember, dividing by the fraction is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal of that fraction, okay? So that's why I just went ahead and multiplied and went ahead and flipped it, okay? And actually, I could have just left this as 2 times 2, and I'd get the same answer, okay? Because 2/1 is a whole number. So that's a little shortcut you can do, right? It saves you a step. Let's go to the next one. It's another fraction to practice with, okay? So if you want to pause and try to practice on your own, you can, all right? If not, just watch it, all right? See if you get it, okay? Steps are the same. Let's go ahead and isolate that variable. And that's going to show you that the 5 is the one that we need to get out of there. So the opposite of adding 5, subtracting 5 from both sides. There we go. So cancel, cancel. And I'm going to have 3/4 x less than 14 minus 5 is 9. I always have to double check because sometimes my brain doesn't, it's faster than my mouth. Okay, so now we're going to isolate the variable again. And now, just like before, I am needing to get rid of that 3/4, okay? The operation is multiplying by 3/4, so we need to do the opposite. So the opposite of multiplying by 3/4 is dividing by 3/4. But if you remember the trick, dividing by 3/4 is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal, which is 4/3, okay? So I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. just like that, okay? And we're going to do cancel, cancel. Did I multiply by a positive or a negative? It is a positive, therefore my sign stays the same. Now comes some grunt work here, just like we did over here, okay? I have 9 over 1. I turn that into a fraction, improper fraction, times 4 over 3, okay? We multiply straight across. So 9 times 4 and 1 times 3 is 3. Now I'm going to divide. So I'm going to put my answer here again. X is less than 36 divided by 3 is 12. Ooh, whole number. No remainder, nothing. So X is less than 12. Just like that. Okay? So don't be afraid of fractions. It's actually you're just multiplying by the reciprocal. And we know how to multiply fractions. We love multiplying by fractions. We go straight across. That's it. And then don't forget to simplify all the way to the end. So if you have improper, change it to a mixed number, or in this case, just a whole number because I had no remainders, and you're done. Okay? And then, of course, don't forget your positive and negative rules as well. I shook my disc, sorry. Okay, you ready to try some on your own? Yeah, you are. You know you are. All right, I went ahead and wrote just 3 of them down for you, okay? Let's go ahead and press pause, write them down, try them on your own, and then press play, and we'll see if you got them, okay? Let's see. Okay. Isolate the variable. Yes. Subtract 7. Good. Cancel, cancel. Bring down. Oof. Positive negatives, do you remember? Subtraction goes to addition. Positive 7 goes to a negative 7 because of subtracting positives and negatives. And really, it's because I can't take away 7 from 5. I can't. Okay? And if that happens, if they're both positive and you know that the bigger number's on top, the smaller number's on the bottom, smaller numbers on top, bigger numbers on the bottom, your answer is going to be negative. Okay? So, different signs subtract. That leaves you with a 2, and 7 is bigger, so his negative comes in. So far you should have had C divided by 4 is greater than or equal to a negative 2, and that's because of the adding, subtracting of negatives, okay, and positives. So here, isolate the variable once again, and I see that I'm going to have to not divide by 4, but multiply by 4. All right, and we get cancel, cancel. I notice I'm multiplying by a positive 4, therefore that stays the same, and 4 times 2 is 8. Signs are different, so it is a negative 8. C is greater than or equal to negative 8. Okay, so check that one. Pause and process if you need to, and I'm going to move on. Isolate the variable. Instead of subtracting 3, you should have added 3. Both sides. Cancel, cancel. 5x less than 2 plus 3, 5. Isolate the variable again. Instead of multiplying by 5, you should have divided by 5 to both sides. Boop. And then cancel, cancel. I divided by a positive 5. Therefore, my variable stays the same, my symbol stays the same. 5 divided by 5 is 1. There you go. Let me answer a question that I know you might get. Ms. Munoz, can I get zeros in the answer? Yes, this can be a 0. I can get a 0 here. So don't ever freak out if a 0 is your answer. When you get into high school, you're going to have answers that say no solution. You're actually going to have answers that say no solution. So in math, anything could be my answer. So don't be afraid, like, can I really get a 0? Yeah, you can really get a 0 on as an answer. Okay, so don't freak out about that. All right. Okay, last one. See how you did on this one. Isolate. Oh, okay. To get rid of this 5, remember, kind of think of it like this. I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. So that leaves me with cancel, cancel. I'm going to bring that minus sign down. Okay, so minus 2k. Now, what it really is doing, since I see minus 2k, I don't like that. Okay, so I'm going to change subtraction to addition and give the negative to the 2. That looks better. So when you have the variable after a subtraction sign like that, go ahead and change it to the additive inverse. Change subtraction to addition and give the negative to the number. Okay, that's a big key right there. And then less than 10. Okay, so again, I gave the negative to the 2 to come down. Okay, because I can't add 2k. There's no 2k over here. I can't do that. Now, opposite. So I'm going to divide by negative 2. Okay. Oops. And let's see what we get. Cancel, cancel. Okay. Now, here I did divide by a negative 2. So my symbol is going to flip directions, and then 10 divided by negative 2 would be a negative 5 because my signs are different. Okay, so be careful on that one. Again, if you have a subtraction before the number and the variable together, go ahead and change it to an addition problem, plus, negative. Okay, you can do it to all of them, plus, negative, and you'll get the exact same answer. So if you ever see a subtraction problem, you can change it to addition and then follow the steps if that makes it easier. Okay, all right. If you have any questions, go ahead and email me, private comment me, get onto Google Meets, and don't be afraid to talk. Ask me a question because I guarantee you're not the only one that has questions, okay? Just be the brave one to ask it, all right? I love answering questions, all right? So tomorrow is your test. I will have Google Meets on during your period if you need to hop on and ask me a quick question, okay? All right. Y'all have a great day, okay? If I don't see you tomorrow, then you have a great weekend, all right? Okay, bye guys.